major issues women face in Bangladesh is similar to major issues women face globally. Patriarchy and patriarchal forms of oppression, using patriarchy to control and oppress women.
The international community right now seems to think there's peace in Burma just because there are some tentative ceasefires between the armed groups. And then they wonder why refugees can't go home. They wonder why the human rights issues don't seem to go away. And the basic fact is it's because none of the issues that led to the conflict have been resolved. The civilian voices haven't been heard enough. And so the problems persist.
And particularly in kitchen stick, it produced the best jig in the world. And this best jig, they do the mining, where education, economic, and any development, no, nothing they have done for the civilians. And I often testify myself that in my life, I don't know if I received any free thing from our government. I feel like I have no government.
Because when you look at Africa at the moment, the wealthiest 10% will be on $5.83 a day income. The middle 40% will be on $1.65. So those are the ones you're trying to get to $2. And the remaining 50% are on 65 cents. If you wanted a more unequal society, I don't think you needed any better example.
Well, the inequality gap really just keeps growing. Even more than earlier in human history, we see that power and wealth are becoming increasingly concentrated into a handful of really privileged people around the world.
In that we tend to assume that people do not necessarily understand why they're living the lives they live and what the causes are, but they do. Only that we never bothered to ask them.
NGOs have become, unfortunately, very, very mainstream development. And as I was saying, the funding sector is such that they have to all bid for projects. That's very, very sad.
Some call it social bribery. You know, government continues with business as usual, and we become the instrument for keeping people quiet.
Donc, on fait la nouvelle vision de la coopération qui est basée sur le dictat de l'économie, sur le dictat plus que de l'économie. C'est des finances. Et on va contre le mur.
And we think people are poor because there is fundamental injustice in the countries that people live in and between the different countries around the world. And that it's that injustice and marginalization and discrimination that keeps people in poverty.
I think enterprise approach in many ways is wrapped up in its name, among equals.
And so if you really want to address poverty and get people out of poverty, you have to address those root causes, and you've got to look at the systems that keep people poor.
Because first and foremost, we think of ourselves as a Canadian activist organization. We're a social justice group based here in Canada with one office. And so we can't ignore the context, the national context in which we work.
On travaille avec 120 organisations à travers le monde, donc en Afrique, en Asie, en Amérique latine, mais ici aussi au Canada.
And they may be working on a whole range of different issues. They may be working on food sovereignty, on health, on migration, on peace and democracy issues. But the main thing that brings us all together is the values that we share and a common understanding around the things that we want to achieve.
En fait, c'est pour ça qu'on travaille sur autant d'enjeux. C'est qu'on considère qu'ils sont tous fondamentalement interconnectés et on peut pas vraiment les traiter séparément. C'est un petit peu comme la souveraineté alimentaire. On peut pas parler de souveraineté alimentaire sans se pencher sur le fait qu'il y a des projets de développement qui chassent des communautés entières de leur terre.
An approach that I think we take and a lot of our counterparts take is to look at it all as obstacles to people's ability to overcome the injustice and the inequality that's keeping them poor.
Creo que esta es una relación en doble vía. No es una relación de financiación, es una relación de construcción colectiva de una propuesta. Y eso me parece muy importante.
Pour moi, c'est important parce que c'est pas juste eux, c'est nous. On est tous ensemble dans ce projet.
Fund is very essential to what we're doing. I mean, without funds, we are not able to carry out and to go on with what we're doing.
The people in the South have said, you know, it's all very well for you to give us money. We like it, we value it, it's important. We couldn't do what we do without it. But we're fighting the battle we're fighting because Canadian Corporation X in, whether it's Guatemala or Colombia or wherever it is actually displacing us from our livelihoods.
The processes that we're trying to address, social justice issues and marginalization of people in southern countries, are long, slow processes to try to overcome.
It almost feels like we are turning 40 because of the organic unity that we feel towards inter pares.
We have always defined ourselves as a feminist social justice organization.
And when we talk about feminism, you know, we're saying that, yeah, there's a power imbalance between the genders, absolutely. But it also includes an analysis of the power disparities between people of different races, of people of different colors, of people who are more privileged, those who are less privileged, socioeconomic disparities. We have a flat structure where everybody makes the same base salary, and that recognizes that the value of each person's contribution is equal. They are different contributions because we have different roles within the organization, but that we value those contributions equally.
I think Nichirakuri is probably the only organization that's at the grassroots in Bangladesh, which is still working in strongly organizing autonomous landless organizations of rural poor women and men to be able to assert their rights as citizens of this country. We work with them, we don't work for them.
On est interdépendants. Et dans cette société de globalisation, on est davantage interdépendants.
Working on poverty alone is not enough. If it's a global world and we are integrated, the thinking needs to be different.
En fait, on a besoin de gens, de militantes, de militants et d'organisations qui remettent en question les politiques qui sont à la base des inégalités.
Porque trasciende la relación de donantes para hablar de solidaridades. Eso es muy clave.
It's that idea where you cannot live comfortably in your relative freedom or privilege without acknowledging, people who do not have.
Solidarity supports, it gives you support in what you're doing and makes you feel that you're not the only one who's going through the struggles that we're going through as human rights activists or as women in general in Sudan.
I'm optimistic because of organizations that keep going despite funding cuts, despite bad economies, despite everything. They continue to do what they believe is right to do.
And I think we have more areas to conquer because we need partners like you that focus on the power of grassroots women, their voice, their contributions, their important role in government to make sure that our health policies, our human rights policies actually keep women in the center.
On a besoin de plus de gens qui s'intéressent au développement international, à la coopération, à la solidarité entre égaux. Et je pense que c'est pour ça que c'est important de se réunir, de discuter ensemble des différentes options, des différentes approches pour repenser la solidarité internationale.